Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's card. Today I have a fun birthday card for you. I'm going to be using some Distress Paint in Wild Honey and Picked Raspberry. And then the stamps that I'm using is Birthday Balloons by Simon Says Stamp. It's got a lot of little pieces to it. I really like that, those little stars there. I've also got the Impression Obsession background stripe stamp, a happy birthday die, and some distress markers. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my balloon stamp, which is a solid image, and my distress paint. And what you're going to do is shake it up, and then you're going to squeeze the bottle and dab it onto your stamp. And I think I squeezed it a little bit too much because the paint kind of came out at the side of the stamp a little bit, so I'm just going to do it one more time, make sure I get a crisp edge. And now I've got a marker. This is Barn Door, so it's actually red. And I'm going to color on the side where I've got some shadow here on my balloon. And I'm using watercolor paper, by the way. And it's okay if your paint is a little bit wet while you apply the marker. It's not going to ruin your tip. And now I'm going to take an aqua painter, which is just a pen that has a tube of water, and you squeeze it and some water comes out. And I'm just going to apply the water so that the two colors blend together. And if I get too much water or too much red on my brush, I'm just going to use a little tissue there to wipe it off. And that's how I'm doing the left-hand side, because I want it to be pretty dark, which is why I colored directly to the paper with my marker. Now I'm going to put some marker color on my craft sheet, and then I'm going to pick it up with my aqua painter because I just want a little bit of the barn door, not as much as I used on the left-hand side. And again, just blend it out. And it's as simple as that. So I'm going to do this same exact thing using Wild Honey. So I'm going to apply it here. You can get a close-up now. And I'm just going to dab it on there until it's covered. And this paint applies really well to your clear stamps. Now for this balloon, I'm using Ripe Persimmon marker. And again, just coloring along the side. And I'm going to cut these out, so it's okay if I kind of go over the edge. I can make it a little sharper with my scissors as I cut it. So I'm going to do underneath the balloon, and then toward the center, and then around the top a little bit. And again with the aqua painter to blend those all together. And then I'll put some marker again on my craft sheet, pick it up with my aqua painter, and color in just a little bit on the other side. And then I just blend it toward the middle. I never really quite go exactly to the center all the way. I'm just going to leave that at the Wild Honey. Alright, so I created another pink balloon, and now I've got a Faber-Castell white big brush pen, and I'm just going to dab it right there in the center, and then I'll take my aqua painter and blend it out a little bit, kind of in circles. And if you get too much white on your brush, you can wipe it off on the tissue like I just did, and you're going to slowly work your way out. And you kind of want to move quickly here, because if the white paint dries a little bit, you'll get a little bit of a water stain. And I kind of got on this first one a little bit of a water stain. And what I'm trying to do is leave the center of that white mark that I made completely white. So I'm not going to touch the center with my aqua painter. So I'm just going to work around the edges. Now here I worked a little bit faster, and it looked a lot better. Not that it looked bad, but I think it looked a little bit more realistic when I did it a little faster. And so this is going to be your light reflection. And I see that I had that water spot, and I decided to use a little bit of paint to cover over it. And that worked out pretty well. Alright, now finally I'm going to do my last one. Dab it on there, and this paint, this white pen, it's very thick paint, and it's like a broad tip, so it goes on kind of like a paint. And I'm going to work my way around. So you kind of start with a bright white in the middle, and it works its way out. I decided to go back in there and put a little bit more white on that first one, and I like how it applied by pulling it off the sheet with the aqua painter. Okay, so I've got this stripe stamp by Impression Obsession. I'm using Simon Says Stamp black ink because it's very, very juicy, and I knew I would get really good coverage with this ink. So I got some on my fingers. I'm going to wipe it off because I don't want to get any black on my card. And then I just flip it over and I get a nice even stripe. Now I've just got some black cardstock, and I'm going to run this happy birthday die through my Sizzix. I'm going to pop it out. Now I do want to tell you, when I use these very thin intricate dies, that I use these Mylar sheets. I'm showing them to you right here. They come in 12 by 12 sheets, and I'll have a link on my blog, but I just put them in there with my acrylic plates, and it just adds a little bit more pressure so that everything just pops out really easy. As you can see, I'm using my paper piercer to just pop out all those little pieces. And so you get a really good impression when you add just these little Mylar shims. Okay, now I'm going to dip my sentiment in some Versamark ink, and then I'm going to put it into black sparkle embossing powder. And I started with black cardstock because I knew I was going to be using the black embossing powder, and that way if there was any spots you wouldn't see them on the black cardstock. So I'm going to get those good and covered, and then I'll just use my paper piercer to get them out of there, and then I'm going to heat it to set it. And it looks so pretty, this embossing powder. It really raises it up and gives it a really enamel look. And I'm just going to hold it down so it doesn't blow off my sheet. And then I decided to flip them over and do the other side. And the reason I did this is so that I didn't have any, sometimes a black embossing powder. I'm going to be putting this on white cardstock, and you might get some on your white cardstock where you don't want it. So that'll just set the whole entire thing front and back. Alright, so I just got this white piece, and I put it on top of my black cardstock, and I'm using a 2A glue pen to put my sentiment onto my panel here. I'm just going to kind of lay it down there, but not pressing down until I get my birthday on there, and then once I get them lined up the way I want them, then I'll just press it down. Okay, now I'm going to arrange my balloons. First I need to adhere this panel, so I'm going to put that right in the middle. And I'm going to have these balloons on string. So I've got some black embroidery thread, and I'm going to apply a 2A glue pen at the tip so that it will hold my string in place. So just mush my string right there so it definitely comes out that little knot in the balloon. And then I have a foam adhesive dimensional by Stampin' Up, and I just pop it on there. And that way it's held in place in the back. And I'll peel off the other side of the adhesive and place my 2 at the top, and then I'm going to pull the strings down with one hand while I line up the third balloon with my right. That way the strings, I can make sure that they're separated. I've got another piece I'm going to cut here, and I'm just going to tie a bow around these 3. Then I can move the bow up and down where I want it. And I'm going to take a glue dot, and I'm going to keep it flat. I'm not going to roll it up or anything. I'm just going to put it right underneath that bow. And there's enough surface area on the glue dot to hold all 3 of those strings. And then the bow on top just also adheres right to it, so it's perfect. And now I'm going to take one of these little stars from the same stamp set, and I'm going to use my Distress paint, the same colors I did before. And I'm going to do 1 pink and 2 wild honey. And then finally I have this Jelly Roll Stardust pen. It's kind of like a Wink of Stella pen, but it's a really, really fine tip. And it just applies a layer of glitter. And so it's just shimmery. And that's it. Not too bad. I enjoyed using the markers and paints at the same time. I think it came out good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.